She walked into the ballroom with diamonds in her hair and power in her name. But what she didn't know was that the woman she'd just tried to humiliate had been quietly building a plan that would shake her billion-dollar empire to the ground. And when the truth came out, it wasn't just reputations that crumbled, it was everything. If you're new to the channel, then please subscribe. Give this video a like. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, we'd love to know. Let's jump into the story. Arjun Das balanced his video camera on one shoulder while he walked through the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom. Chandeliers glittered like upside-down constellations, and every surface shone with gold. A string quartet played softly, mixing with the hum of wealthy guests trading jokes about hedge funds and holiday islands. Events like this were not new to Arjun. He had filmed 5 charity galas this month alone. Usually he drifted like a quiet ghost, gathering images of polite smiles and large checks written for tidy causes. Yet tonight felt tense, as if the air itself waited for a spark. At 8:30 the spark arrived. The tall doors opened, and Natalie Crawford stepped inside. She wore a rose gold gown that hugged her frame like liquid metal. Diamonds flickered at her ears, throat, and wrists. Every head turned. The Crawford name meant pipelines, refineries, and a fortune older than most skyscrapers. Arjun followed her through his lens. She did not hurry. She moved with the lazy grace of a dancer who trusts the spotlight to follow. When a waiter tried to pass with champagne, Natalie tilted one jeweled wrist, and the waiter backed off as though the air had grown sharp near the back wall. Doc Kira Bennett held a numbered paddle and waited for the auction to begin. Her dress was plain black crepe, the kind that folds into a carry-on. Her shoes looked ready to walk 10 city blocks without complaint. She stood alone, reading the list of scholarships on offer. When the auctioneer raised the first item, a set of laptops for a public school, Kira lifted her paddle. Arjun zoomed in. Focus burned in Kira's eyes. She was here for purpose, not for chandeliers. Each time the auctioneer named an education. Lot, Kira bid calm, relentless, as though she had rehearsed this moment for years. Natalie soon noticed. Boredom had crept into her smile until she saw Kira's steady hand rise again and again. Curiosity flickered, then something colder. She leaned toward her friend Leela Mercer and whispered behind a manicured hand. Leela's laugh rang out like glass tapped by silver. The auction paused for a short break. Violins floated above hushed chatter. Natalie glided across the glossy floor, toward Kira, her gown trailing an expensive scent. Arjun, sensing trouble, followed at a safe distance and switched on his mic. The red light blinked. Keira studied her program as Natalie's shadow fell across the page. She looked up and met Natalie's bright, assessing stare. "You have a brave paddle," Natalie said, her tone warm yet edged. "Bravery can be costly in rooms like this." "These scholarships are costly for the children who never get them," Kira replied. Her voice was soft, but sure. Natalie's smile widened. "Education is dear, yes? That is why people with means." She tapped a diamond-tipped nail on her necklace. "Step up," Layla added. "Some folks should know their lanes." Kira did not flinch. "I know my lane," she said. "I am building a bridge so others can cross." Natalie's eyes narrowed. She waved to security guards over. "This guest is interrupting the flow," she told them. "Please escort her out." Gasps rippled across nearby tables. The string quartet hesitated. Arjun's camera captured Kira's face as color rose in her cheeks. Still, she straightened, thanked the guards, and walked toward the exit. Her heels tapped like a measured drumbeat. At the doorway, she paused and met Natalie's gaze across the silent room. She offered a small, knowing smile, the kind one might give a child who does not yet grasp the rules. Then she stepped into the corridor. Natalie exhaled, triumphant. Laughter returned, shaky at first, then louder. The auctioneer cleared his throat. The quartet resumed. All seemed normal again, yet Arjun felt a tremor. While the rich toasted themselves, he slipped onto the balcony and reviewed the footage. Every frame crackled with energy. It captured more than cruelty. It filmed a fuse being lit below him. The city rushed by. Arjun should have called it a night, yet he stayed, staring at his camera's tiny screen. Kira's calm stare. Natalie's sharp smile. The hush that fell like a curtain together, they formed the opening scene of a drama larger than any ballroom. Inside the ballroom, the lights dimmed for the next bidding round, yet Arjun barely noticed. The image of Kira's calm exit looped in his mind, sharpening into purpose. Recording pretty parties suddenly felt small. He wanted truth on record truth with teeth. He popped a fresh card into the camera, slid the used one into an inside pocket, and murmured a promise to himself, "The world will see what I saw tonight." Arjun Das could not sleep after the gala. The city outside his apartment window glittered, but his thoughts stayed fixed on Dr. Kira Bennett and that strange, quiet smile she gave before leaving the ballroom. Sometime after midnight, he opened his laptop, determined to learn who she was and why she had faced humiliation without fighting back. At first, he searched social media. There were no glamorous photos, no designer vacations. Instead, he found short clips of Kira speaking about digital classrooms in small-town libraries. Each video showed her in the same plain black jacket, explaining big ideas in simple words. She spoke about children who shared one textbook between 5 desks and teachers who bought chalk with their own wages. Her focus never shifted from those kids. Arjun's curiosity grew. He moved to professional sites. There he discovered a long list of patents in Kira's name, all linked to educational software. Her resume read like a map dotted with hard-won victories. Full scholarship to MIT, PhD in computer science. 10 years shaping learning tools in Silicon Valley, then the sale of her company for $180 million. The next line froze him. After cashing out, Kira founded LearnBridge.org, a nonprofit aimed at closing the technology gap for rural schools. She placed every dollar she earned into servers, tablets, and training sessions that traveled by bus to forgotten districts. Yet she still stood alone at a fancy gala, wearing a dress cheaper than the centerpieces on each dining table. Arjun clicked farther down the search results. A local Louisiana newspaper, dated years ago, held a small headline: Teen Protester calls Crawford Energy a threat to Bayou View Health. The accompanying photo showed a 17-year-old girl with stubborn eyes holding a cardboard sign. A caption listed her name as Kayla Bennett, whispered, Kira feeling the weight of the connection. Bayou View was a remote fishing town along the Gulf. Arjun remembered reading about chemical leaks there in the late 90s. Crawford Energy, the Crawford family's crown jewel, had faced several fines, but never serious punishment. Reports mentioned strange cancers appearing in clusters. The puzzle pieces clicked together: Kira's calm persistence, the Crawford wealth, and Natalie's cruel dismissal. This was not a random clash. It was history returning for justice. Arjun leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. The footage he filmed now felt like dynamite. It showed the true face of power mocking the survivor of its own crimes. He drafted an email before dawn, keeping the message direct. Dr. Bennett, I filmed the Lumen Gala last night. I have full video of your interaction with Natalie Crawford. You may find it useful. Could we meet to discuss? He expected silence. Instead, by 8 in the morning, a reply arrived: Thank you for reaching out. Mr. Das, Orchard Cafe, Brooklyn, 10 p.m. Today works. Ask for the corner booth. Those few lines carried no hesitation. Arjun sensed she had been waiting for this moment. He traveled by subway, clutching the camera card in his jacket. Orchard Cafe smelled of coffee beans and old novels. The shelves were stacked with used books, their spines soft with age. Kira sat in the corner, a mug steaming between her palms. She looked up as he approached and nodded, as if greeting a colleague rather than a stranger. You recorded everything, she said, not accusing, simply stating fact. Yes, Arjun answered. Why did you let her push you out? Kira's gaze moved to the rain-speckled window. Because I needed her to reveal herself. Often hide behind polished speeches and charity checks. But cruelty, real cruelty, shows what a company's culture is made of. The camera does not blink. She slid a small flash drive across the table. Inside are files from Crawford Energy's own servers, waste reports, private memos, bribes to local officials. I have whistleblower testimony, soil samples, medical records. Federal investigators want the public to see a pattern of contempt. Your video gives that pattern a human face. Arjun held the drive gently, aware it contained years of someone's hope and fear. Why? Trust me, he asked. Because you saw more than glitter last night, she replied. And because independent storytellers are faster than corporate. Media, big outlets weigh risk first. Families in Bayou View have waited long enough. Her words were steady, but Arjun noticed the faint tremor of her fingers when she lifted the mug. She had carried this fight a long time, long enough for strength to feel like fatigue. What exactly happened in Bayou View? He asked.
Elsie
breathed out slowly. Crawford Energy stored barrels of toxic sludge in marsh pits. Rainwater carried chemicals into our wells. My foster father died of lung cancer when I was 16. A dozen neighbors followed. Lawyers told us settlements were victory. But money does not scrub air or bring back lives. Arjun listened, recording audio now, each syllable a fresh weight in his chest. Kira continued. For 3 years, I have worked with environmental lawyers and a federal task force. I needed proof of intent, proof they knew and still chose. Prophet Natalie's signature sits on several disposal orders. The gala humiliation was the final straw. Now the case is ready. A silence settled between them. Outside, traffic groaned under gray clouds. Inside, the cafe felt like a pocket of steady resolve. Arjun broke the silence. I will share the footage. You'll also film your story. Kira's mouth curved in. A tired smile. Someone will, sooner or later. If you're willing, start now. They set a date for the first interview. Arjun left the cafe with the flash drive secure in his bag and a fresh battery in his camera. He passed a newsstand, where glossy magazines praised Natalie's flawless fashion sense. He wondered how long those covers would last once truth reached daylight. 6 blocks later, he stopped on the sidewalk, pulled out his phone, and rewatched the clip of Natalie ordering Kira's removal. This time he listened for what hid behind the words, fear. Natalie feared anyone who could not be bought. Anyone who carried silence like a sword. Arjun tucked the phone away and looked up at the city skyline. Beneath polished offices and diamond chandeliers lay stories of families coughing in small houses far away. He realized that digging beneath those diamonds might be dangerous, but leaving them untouched was worse. He headed home as rain began to fall, each drop tapping the pavement like a countdown. Tomorrow he would meet federal agents. Tomorrow a tower built on poison would start to shake. And somewhere in Bayou View, morning sunlight would soon cut through the fog, promising clean air for children who had never known it before. Dawn broke quietly over Manhattan, but the silence didn't last. By 6 a.m., flashing red and blue lights lit up the street in front of Crawford Tower. The tall glass building stood like a monument to wealth and power until now. Federal agents moved in with purpose, their jackets marked with bold yellow letters. Behind them, a steady stream of reporters and photographers crowded the sidewalks, drawn to the scent of scandal. Arjun Das stood across the street, camera steady in his hands. This was the moment Kira Bennett had predicted. The footage from the gala had gone viral 2 days ago. It showed Natalie Crawford mocking Kira, ordering security to remove her, and doing it with the cold confidence of someone who believed nothing could touch her. Millions had watched. Millions were now watching again. The FBI team didn't knock. They used warrants to sweep through every floor of Crawford Energy's headquarters. Boxes filled with paperwork were carried out, laptops sealed in plastic bags, and hard drives stacked like bricks. June caught it all on film. Every frame told a story that words alone could never match. News alerts exploded across phones and televisions. FBI raids Crawford Energy and environmental crimes investigation. Stock plunges 45% in pre-market trading. Billion-dollar empire under federal spotlight. The internet lit up with hashtags like hashtag justice for Bayou View and hashtag toxic truth. Arjun panned his camera toward the growing group of protesters lining the street.
How many?
Held signs showing maps of polluted areas and photos of sick relatives. One woman clutched a framed picture of her younger brother. Her voice cracked as she chanted, "Clean air for all." Then a sleek black SUV pulled up to the building, drawing everyone's attention. Natalie Crawford stepped out, wearing dark sunglasses and a tailored gray suit. Her heels clicked sharply against the pavement. For a moment, she looked untouched by the chaos until she saw the agents inside. Her confident walk slowed. Her mouth tightened. She grabbed her phone and started speaking quickly into it, pacing in front of the building. Arjun zoomed in on her face. She was no longer the calm, powerful figure from the gala. This woman looked cornered, trapped by something far larger than she expected. Moments later, Kira appeared. She wasn't hiding behind any team or lawyer. She stood calmly at the edge of the crowd, holding a clipboard and speaking to journalists. Her voice was steady as she explained the years of work that had led to this day, how the toxins dumped by Crawford Energy had poisoned the land, and how she and a team of lawyers had gathered evidence step by step. Natalie spotted Kira. Whole body tensed. She stormed across the sidewalk, ignoring the cameras and officers. "You," she hissed, pointing a shaking finger. "You planned this. You destroyed everything." Kira didn't move. "No," she replied softly. "You destroyed it. I just made sure the truth was seen." Natalie lunged, pushing through the crowd. She reached for Kira's shoulder, but two security officers stopped her before she could make contact. The press snapped photo after photo as Natalie struggled and shouted. Her hair had fallen into her face, her voice no longer smooth but filled with rage and fear. The cameras didn't miss a second of her breakdown. Makeup smeared, heels unsteady, she was dragged back from the crowd. Behind her, reporters shouted. Questions. Someone called out, "Did you sign off on the waste disposal plans?" She didn't answer. Kira stayed still. "Power built on harm never lasts," she said aloud, knowing the microphones were close. This is what accountability looks like. Within hours, Crawford Energy's remaining board members resigned. Several former executives were arrested. The company's legal team scrambled to contain the damage, but it was already too late. The stock dropped another 20% by lunchtime. Major clients canceled contracts. Environmental groups demanded full audits of all past projects. The empire was crumbling, floor by floor. Arjun uploaded his footage that evening. The video opened with Kira's quiet strength and ended with Natalie's public collapse. It spread fast, appearing on news sites and social media feeds around the world. In less than 12 hours, it had been viewed over 10 million times. Arjun titled it the day truth stepped out of the shadows. Later that night, he sat with Kira on a bench just a few blocks from the courthouse. Sirens echoed in the distance, but for now, the moment felt still. "How do you feel?" Arjun asked. Kira looked at the sky where stars struggled against the glow of city lights. "Tired," she said honestly, "but hopeful. This is just the beginning. There's still so much more to fix." He nodded, watching the people walk past. Many of them had no idea who Kira was or what she had done, but soon they would. Because she craved fame, but because her story mattered. "You think they'll ever admit they were wrong?" he asked. Kira gave a small smile, maybe not with words. "But they're watching everything fall. That's enough." A cold breeze passed and Kira pulled her coat tighter. She stood and offered Arjun a hand. "We have work to do," she said. He stood beside her, camera ready once again, because the empire wasn't just trembling now, it was falling.
Oh.
And the world had finally started paying attention. 6 months had passed since the raid on Crawford Tower, but the echoes of that morning still rippled through headlines and homes. Now in a quiet corner of Bayou View, Louisiana, something new was beginning. Where toxic waste had once soaked the soil, fresh paint now dried on the walls of a brand new school. The sign read, Bayou View STEM Academy. The air was different here. Cleaner, brighter. Sunlight streamed through wide windows as workers placed the final desks in colorful classrooms. The walls were lined with bookshelves and computer stations, not barrels or warning signs. Outside, rows of children waited in their best clothes. some holding handmade signs that said things like, "Thank you, Doctor. Kira and our future starts now." Kira Bennett stood just beyond the front doors, dressed in a navy blue dress with simple earrings and her hair pulled back. She wasn't one for big crowds, but today she didn't mind. The school had been her dream for years. Ever since she was a teenager watching her neighbors get sick, while no one with power cared. Beside her stood Principal Julian West, kind man with laugh lines around his eyes, who had worked in underfunded schools his whole life. Today, he couldn't stop smiling. "This is more than a building," he told Kira quietly. "This is a lighthouse." Arjun Das, holding his camera nearby, captured every moment. He had followed Kira's journey from that first night in the ballroom to this joyful morning. His documentary, Bridges Over Blackwater, it's already aired on several platforms and won praise for telling a story of strength, justice, and change. Ribbon stretched across the front steps was made of recycled fishing nets, gathered by local volunteers from the polluted bayou years ago. 3 students stepped forward with silver scissors. The crowd counted down together, double quotes, 3, 2, 1. The scissors cut through the ribbon. Oh. Cheers rose into the blue sky as the children rushed forward, eager to explore the hallways and touch the future waiting inside the school. Each classroom had been named after a local hero: teachers, nurses, community organizers who had fought for clean water and safe neighborhoods. The largest room, the technology lab, was named after Kira's late foster father, who had once told her, "Education is the one thing no one can take from you." Kira walked the halls slowly, stopping to greet each student. One little girl tugged her sleeve and asked, "Are you the boss of this place?" Kira knelt and smiled. "No, sweetheart, you are." The school's funding had come from a court settlement after Crawford Energy was dissolved. The federal investigation revealed years of illegal dumping, bribes, internal emails that proved the company had knowingly harmed low-income communities. Natalie Crawford, once untouchable, was now serving a 15-year sentence. She had been found guilty of conspiracy, environmental destruction, and fraud. Arjun later learned that Natalie had watched the school's ribbon-cutting ceremony from a prison television. She didn't speak, didn't blink much, just stared as the camera showed the crowd cheering for Kira. Once her name had opened doors. Now, it reminded people of everything that had gone wrong. But Kira didn't spend her time thinking about Natalie. She focused on the kids that afternoon. In the school auditorium, Arjun hosted a special screening of his documentary. The students watched with wide eyes as scenes from New York played across the screen: gold chandeliers, the sharp voice of Natalie at the gala, the raid, the protest signs. Many had never seen their hometown mentioned on television. How it was there for the world to witness. At the end of the film, the lights came up and the room fell quiet. Then a boy in the front row stood and began to clap. Soon, the entire room joined in. Arjun turned to Kira, who sat near the back. She didn't stand or speak out. She just wiped away a quiet tear and smiled. Outside, the sky began to darken, but the lights inside the academy burned bright. Teachers rolled in carts of books and set up science kits. Students pulled out pencils and began to sketch their ideas for the future that felt possible now. On the front lawn, Arjun interviewed one last student before packing up. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" he asked. The boy grinned. "I want to invent stuff. Maybe a machine that cleans dirty rivers, or a robot teacher that tells jokes." Arjun laughed. "That sounds amazing," as he packed his equipment. He looked back at the building one last time. The academy wasn't just a school, it was proof that even the worst stories could be rewritten. Kira had done more than expose the truth. She had planted something strong, something lasting. A breeze passed through the tall trees, carrying the laughter of children through the town. Birds circled above the playground, and the smell of fresh paint mixed with spring air. Arjun thought about the final line of his documentary, like the one he had written months ago, but only now fully understood. True wealth is not the money you hold, but the future you help grow. As the sun dipped below the trees, Kira stood quietly at the top of the school's steps, her hand resting on the railing, eyes full of light, because new roots had taken hold, and a new sky was waiting.